Every day, you eat it, sometimes in your breakfast cereal, sometimes in a so-called healthy granola bar, sometimes in your favorite salad dressing, and almost always in soda, sweetened drinks, pastries, sauces, and snacks. You do not even notice it anymore. But your brain does. Scientific studies have shown that a high intake of added sugar can quietly damage your brain over time. It increases inflammation in the brain. It affects how you think, how you feel, and how well you remember. And worst of all, this harm builds up silently for years, without obvious symptoms at first. You might think sugar only causes weight gain or diabetes, but many researchers now call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes, because it is closely linked to long-term sugar exposure. Brain fog, memory lapses, anxiety, and poor sleep quality. These are not just signs of getting older. They could be signs that your brain is overwhelmed by sugar. You may not eat candy every day, but hidden sugar is everywhere, even in foods labeled low-fat, organic, or healthy. Over time, these small doses add up, and your brain pays the price. So in this video, we are going to reveal what sugar really does to your brain. We will show you the science. We will explain the silent symptoms. And we will walk you through what happens when you reduce sugar, even just a little bit. You eat this tiny thing every day. It is time to find out if it is harming your brain. If you care about your brain health, remember to like and subscribe for more science-based tips every week. Mechanism: how sugar causes brain inflammation. Let us look at how sugar actually damages the brain from the inside. The harm is not instant. It builds up over time. And the process starts with something called inflammation. When you eat too much added sugar, your blood sugar levels rise. That triggers the release of insulin, the hormone that helps move sugar into your cells. But if you eat sugary foods too often, your body can become less responsive to insulin. This is known as insulin resistance. Insulin resistance does not just affect your blood, it also affects your brain. Brain cells, especially in memory-related areas, have insulin receptors too. When these receptors stop working well, the brain cannot use energy efficiently. This leads to slower thinking, poor focus, and memory problems. At the same time, high sugar intake increases inflammation throughout your body, including your brain. Sugar activates certain immune cells in the brain, called microglia. These cells are supposed to protect the brain. But when they are constantly activated by sugar, they begin to release inflammatory chemicals. Over time, this creates low-grade chronic inflammation in the brain. Chronic inflammation can damage neurons and interfere with communication between brain cells. It also affects brain plasticity, the brain's ability to learn, adapt, and grow new connections. This is one reason why sugar is linked to both memory loss and mood disorders. Some studies using brain scans have found that people with high sugar diets tend to have reduced volume in areas like the hippocampus, the part of the brain critical for memory and learning. So, even if you feel fine now, a high sugar diet may be slowly affecting how your brain works. It is like a silent fire smoldering in the background. You cannot see it, but it keeps burning, and over time, it weakens the very organ you rely on to think, feel, and remember. Impact on memory and the hippocampus. Let us talk about memory. Memory is not just about remembering names or dates. It is how you learn new things. It is how you stay organized, solve problems, and function in daily life. And the part of your brain that plays a central role in memory is called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is shaped like a seahorse and is located deep inside your brain. It helps convert short-term memories into long-term memories. It also helps you navigate, recognize patterns, and store new information. Now here is the problem. When you eat too much added sugar, your hippocampus is one of the first areas to suffer. Studies in both animals and humans show that high sugar diets can reduce the size and function of the hippocampus. This makes it harder to retain new information and easier to forget things you already knew. Sugar affects the hippocampus in several ways. First, it increases inflammation in that region, which damages brain cells over time. Second, it increases insulin resistance in the brain, reducing energy use and communication between cells. And third, it lowers levels of a key protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. BDNF supports the growth and survival of neurons. Lower BDNF means fewer new brain connections. In one study, researchers found that adults who consumed high amounts of sugar over several years showed a measurable decline in memory scores. And brain scans revealed a smaller hippocampus compared to people who consumed less sugar. These effects are not limited to older adults. They can happen in younger people too, especially if sugary foods are consumed regularly. You might notice it as difficulty focusing, brain fog, or forgetting simple things. The good news is that these changes are not always permanent. Some studies suggest that reducing sugar intake and eating a brain-healthy diet may help restore hippocampus function over time. So the next time you reach for something sweet, remember, you are not just feeding your cravings. You could be feeding a slow erosion of your brain's memory center. Connection to depression, anxiety, and mood imbalance. Your brain does not just control memory and thinking. It also regulates how you feel, your emotions, your stress response, your overall mental state. And when sugar enters the picture, things can get out of balance. A growing number of studies show that a diet high in added sugar is linked to a higher risk of depression and anxiety. This does not mean sugar directly causes mental illness, but it plays a major role in how your brain chemistry works. First, sugar disrupts the balance of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. These are the chemicals that help regulate mood, motivation, and pleasure. When you eat sugary foods, you get a quick boost in dopamine, which feels good. But over time, repeated spikes can dull your brain's response. You need more sugar to feel the same effect, which can lead to mood swings and irritability. Second, sugar increases inflammation in the brain, especially in areas involved in emotional regulation. Chronic low-grade inflammation has been found in people with depression and anxiety. And sugar is one of the known triggers for that. Third, high sugar intake has been linked to disrupted sleep, and sleep is essential for mental stability. People who consume more sugar tend to have lighter sleep, more awakenings, and lower sleep quality overall. Poor sleep then worsens anxiety and mood issues, creating a vicious cycle. Also, the highs and lows in blood sugar after consuming sweets can lead to energy crashes, mental fatigue, and emotional sensitivity. You may feel fine after a sugary snack, but 1 hour later, you might feel anxious, unfocused, or overwhelmed. In a long-term study involving more than 10,000 adults, those with the highest sugar consumption had a significantly higher risk of developing common mental disorders. And the risk was independent of weight, income, or lifestyle. So if you often feel emotionally unstable, on edge, or mentally drained, it may not just be life stress. It could also be what is on your plate. Sugar and reduced intelligence in children. Sugar does not just affect adults. It may have an even stronger impact on children, especially when it comes to learning, attention, and brain development. During childhood, the brain is still forming critical connections. It is highly sensitive to nutrients, both good and bad. And what children eat every day can shape how their brain grows and functions for years to come. Several studies have found that children who consume high amounts of added sugar tend to perform worse on tests related to memory, attention, and academic skills. This is not just because of hyperactivity or sugar crashes. It is because sugar can interfere with brain chemistry and development. One of the key concerns is inflammation. Just like in adults, too much sugar triggers inflammation in the developing brain. This inflammation can reduce the brain's ability to form strong neural connections, which are essential for learning and thinking clearly. Another issue is with insulin resistance. Yes, children can develop insulin resistance in the brain just like adults. This makes it harder for the brain to use energy efficiently, which can slow down mental processing and focus. And then there is BDNF, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This is a protein that helps neurons grow and connect. High sugar intake has been shown to lower BDNF levels in both animals and humans. Lower BDNF means fewer new connections, which can affect intelligence and memory. Some schools in the United States have already started to reduce sugary foods in lunches because of the link between sugar and poor academic performance. Researchers have also observed that children who eat a healthier, low-sugar diet tend to have better attention spans and behavior in class. It is important to remember that a child's brain is still developing. Even small daily habits, like sugary snacks or sweetened drinks, can shape how their brain wires itself for the future. If you are a parent or caregiver, take a closer look at what is going into your child's meals and snacks. Because protecting their brain today is one of the best gifts you can give for tomorrow. Linked to Alzheimer and the concept of type 3 diabetes. When people think of sugar, they often worry about diabetes. But what many people do not know is that sugar may also be connected to memory loss and Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is a condition where the brain slowly loses its ability to store and recall memories. It also affects thinking, reasoning, and eventually daily function. Most people believe it is just a disease of aging. But more and more scientists now see a strong link between Alzheimer's and how the brain handles sugar. Some researchers have even started calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. Why? Because the brain, just like other organs, needs insulin to use energy. When the brain becomes resistant to insulin, just like in type 2 diabetes, it can no longer use glucose properly. This starves the brain cells and causes them to weaken or die over time. Insulin resistance in the brain has been found in people with early Alzheimer's. And long-term high sugar intake is one of the strongest contributors to that problem. When your brain is flooded with too much sugar over the years, the system that helps neurons use energy begins to break down. This is not just a theory. Studies using brain scans, spinal fluid samples, and even autopsies have found metabolic problems in the brains of people with Alzheimer's, similar to what happens in diabetes. One of the key signs is the buildup of plaques and tangles that block communication between brain cells. These structures are often worse in people with poor blood sugar control. Also, lower levels of BDNF, the protein that supports brain health, have been found in people with both type 2 diabetes and Alzheimer's. That means sugar may be harming the brain in multiple ways at the same time. The idea of type 3 diabetes is not yet official, but it is gaining attention in medical communities. And the message is clear. How your body handles sugar can have a direct effect on your brain. If you want to reduce your risk of Alzheimer's, it is not just about doing crossword puzzles or staying active. You also need to look at your diet and cut back on the sugar that might be silently damaging your memory. The most dangerous types of sugar. Not all sugars are created equal. Some are especially harmful to your brain. Among the worst is refined white sugar. It causes quick spikes in blood glucose, leading to insulin surges and brain inflammation. Over time, this pattern can impair memory, mood, and learning ability. Another major culprit is high fructose corn syrup, commonly found in soft drinks, packaged snacks, and processed foods. Unlike glucose, which is used by all cells, fructose is mainly processed in the liver. When consumed in large amounts, it can promote fat buildup and trigger insulin resistance, both harmful for your brain. Studies have shown that high fructose diets can reduce brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a key protein needed for memory formation and brain repair. Lower BDNF levels have been linked to depression, dementia, and reduced cognitive flexibility. Artificial sweeteners may seem like a safer option, but many carry their own risks. Some, like aspartame or saccharin, have been found to disrupt gut bacteria and may impair brain signaling. Especially with long-term use, the brain thrives on balanced, steady energy. But these aggressive sweeteners, from white sugar to corn syrup to artificial types, send it on a roller coaster. The result? More brain fog, fatigue, and slower thinking. Knowing which sugars to avoid is just as important as knowing what to eat. Read labels carefully, and try to limit foods and drinks with added sweeteners. Your brain will thank you. Hidden sugars in foods you thought were healthy. You might think you are avoiding sugar because you do not eat candy or drink soda. But hidden sugars are everywhere, even in foods you believe are healthy. Take yogurt, for example. A single cup of flavored yogurt can contain up to 20 grams of sugar. That is 5 teaspoons in one small cup. Breakfast cereals labeled as whole grain or heart healthy often carry 10 to 15 grams of added sugar per serving. Some granola bars marketed as natural or energy boosters are basically candy bars in disguise. Even fruit juices are not as safe as they seem. A glass of apple juice may have the same sugar content as a cola, without the fiber that whole fruits provide. This fast sugar rush hits your brain quickly and can trigger inflammation. Store-bought smoothies are another common trap. They are often loaded with added syrups, sweetened yogurts, or even ice cream, especially in pre-packed or fast food versions. You think you are drinking a vitamin boost, but your brain may be paying the price. Ketchup and pasta sauce? Just 2 tablespoons can contain up to 8 grams of sugar. That is 2 full teaspoons hiding in your savory dishes. And beware of low-fat or fat-free versions of foods. When fat is removed, sugar is often added to improve taste. These changes make you feel like you are eating smart, but you are unknowingly stressing your brain with sugar overload. Why does this matter? Because constant exposure to hidden sugars keeps your brain inflamed and affects your memory, focus, and mood stability. You might be feeding brain fog every day without even knowing it. So do not just check for calories. Read the label. Look for added sugar. It might not say sugar directly. Watch out for terms like corn syrup, evaporated cane juice, fructose, or maltodextrin. You thought you were eating clean. But now you know. Even healthy foods can hide dangerous sugars. Warning signs. Your brain reacts badly to sugar. You may be eating sugar every day without realizing how much it is affecting your brain. The problem is, the symptoms do not always appear as something dramatic. Instead, they start subtly, but consistently. One of the first warning signs is frequent fatigue. If you often feel tired or drained even after sleeping well, sugar could be to blame. It causes blood sugar spikes and crashes that leave your brain struggling to maintain energy balance. Another common sign is brain fog. This is not just feeling a little distracted. It is when your thinking becomes cloudy, your memory slips, and even simple tasks feel harder. Research shows that excessive sugar can impair communication between brain cells and reduce mental clarity. Mood swings and irritability are also linked to high sugar intake. You may notice you feel anxious or short-tempered after eating sweet snacks. This happens because sugar affects neurotransmitters like serotonin, which help regulate mood. Some people also report increased cravings for more sugar shortly after consuming it. This craving cycle can worsen fatigue, mood instability, and mental fog. In children, signs of poor sugar tolerance may show up as difficulty concentrating, hyperactivity, or emotional outbursts. These reactions are not just behavioral. They often reflect deeper metabolic stress in the brain. Over time, these signs can build up and contribute to long-term risks like memory decline or reduced cognitive function. That is why it is so important to listen to what your brain is trying to tell you. Too much sugar affects everyone, but some people are much more vulnerable to its brain effects. In older adults, high sugar intake has been linked to faster cognitive decline. Their brain becomes more sensitive to inflammation and oxidative stress caused by sugar, increasing the risk of memory loss and confusion. Children's brains are still developing, so regular sugar overload can interfere with attention, behavior, and even learning ability. Research shows that diets high in added sugar may lead to hyperactivity and mood swings in kids. People who already struggle with anxiety or depression may also be more sensitive to sugar. Studies suggest that excess sugar can worsen mood instability, increase fatigue, and interfere with sleep quality. It may also lower levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essential for brain resilience. If you notice frequent brain fog, mood swings, or lack of focus, your brain might be reacting to sugar more than you think. The risk is even higher for those with a family history of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. In these cases, sugar reduction is not just helpful, it is critical. So if you belong to any of these groups, start reducing added sugars today. Small changes can protect your brain now and in the future. Now you know how something as tiny as added sugar can slowly wear down your brain. It feeds inflammation, disrupts mood-regulating chemicals, and accelerates aging in your memory center. You may not see it right away, but over time, these effects add up. The good news? Cutting back on sugar does not mean you have to give up sweetness. Whole fruits, dark chocolate with no added sugar, and cinnamon can help satisfy your cravings in smarter ways. Small swaps every day add up to big protection. By limiting sugar, you help reduce brain fog, stabilize mood swings, and even support your focus and long-term memory. It is a simple change that can give your brain the break it needs. If you found this helpful, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more science-backed ways to eat smarter. And do not stop here. Next, we are diving into one specific food that supports brain cells and reduces brain inflammation. So do not miss it.